Huh? Oh! Yeah!
Hey, paisanos! Welcome to episode 28 of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want. We try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. With that said, let's get going. You know, sometimes it's really fascinating to get answers to questions you didn't even think to ask. Like, for example, here with Princess Peach, a very valid question to ask is, where is she in this particular scene? But honestly, I never put any thought into it. But if we zoom the camera out, we can actually see that she's way above the Mushroom Castle and laying horizontally. And when she disappears, Lakitu spawns just below her coordinates.
Yours truly, Princess Toadstool.
Another thing that caught me off guard, and I guess I just wasn't paying attention, is that apparently almost every single spherical object in Super Mario 64 is actually just a 2D texture. And when you move the camera around, you can remove the illusion and see it for what it really is. And with the exception of Chain Chomp, I think this applies to every single object, including the famous King Babam. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering Super Mario 64 DS when it becomes relevant, and this is one of those instances. Like here inside of Princess Peach's castle, Mario goes through several doors to get to certain areas. Now in Mario 64, behind the door is typically just a rug and a black background. But in Mario 64 DS, several of these doors actually have special backgrounds made specifically for the room that you're about to go into. Like for example here, you get an outdoor canvas. And for the staircase room that goes back out into the main hall, you can actually see the clouds that are in the main hall's room. And even the courtyard has its own special texture. Another pretty shocking surprise is that the menu screen before you start your game in Super Mario 64 is completely 3D modeled. So you can actually turn the camera around behind it and you'll see that it has its own special texture that no person would be able to see. And every time you click an option on the menu, that's actually a 3D object expanding and going closer to the player's screen. And even more than that, the actual text at the very beginning when you boot up Super Mario 64 is also 3D modeled. But unfortunately, it's not fully 3D modeled like the menu screen is. One lesser known fact about Super Mario 64 is that, due to its low resolution being put out on home consoles back in 1996, the developers were actually able to get away with making low-poly versions of certain character models, like Mario here, when he's far enough away from the camera. The idea was that when Mario's in motion, he uses far less polygons than he would when he's standing still. But with HD and Magic Camera, we can actually see how pretty hilarious he looks in low-poly mode. Now we just gotta match him up with low-poly Peach from Super Mario Galaxy, and we got a match made in heaven. Quick little tidbit, in the room that I'm assuming is supposed to be one of the castle's spires, you'll know that if you go to the right, you go inside the secret slide room. But the other two windows are legit. Now what's funny about that though is that if you take the camera behind them, you can see that it has that extra space, just like it would for the slide room. And you can also see that there's a full image that's being clipped into the frame. Also in Super Mario 64 DS, this room got a little bit of an overhaul, and this actually introduced an all-new room into the castle, which included a balcony for Princess Peach. The only thing that was a bit of a shame is that it was completely blocked off by a glass window. But with Magic Camera we can get a little bit of a better look as far as what is outside of this area. And if we're going to draw even more comparisons between the original and the DS version, take a look at the cannon in Bob-omb Battlefield. In the original game, they had just one cannon, and obviously you're not allowed to go inside the cannon when you're on your first star because it's already out and shooting bubbles. But in the DS version, they went a different route. There's actually one cannon shooting bubbles, and the cannon that you're supposed to be able to get inside is still in there, and it's obstructed. In fact, since we can boundary break, I can go inside that cannon and shoot my character out of it. Now, another difference that the DS version had was that in the special room, they changed the window pane colors to be different from one another. Now, I imagine this was done for two reasons. One was to liven up the scenery just a little bit, but more importantly, it was to help prevent the player from getting disoriented. And I thought to myself, wow, this would actually be really cool to go through these windows and see these different colored skies. But unfortunately, the trick was actually pulled off by putting a filter over each window, which you can actually see if you view the window at a certain angle. Now, as far as new perspectives go, I absolutely love how TikTok clock looks. Somehow, someway, the developers managed to pull off rendering the entire level in one go. And from far away, it looks awesome. Now, I don't think it's a surprise to most people how they pulled off this optical illusion with Big Small Island, but I gotta admit, it's a really cool optical illusion, and one thing that I always wanted to see was, how is this room laid out? And now that we can take the camera anywhere, we can finally see what that looks like. Monty Moles! My live stream kind of opened my eyes to the fact that Monty Moles kind of hide half their bodies almost any given time, so I thought we'd take a look at these guys as well. Now granted, in an instant you can see their entire bodies as they jump back into their holes, but let's be honest, you don't really get a great look at these guys. And I think what's really interesting to know here is that they actually warp in and out of existence, which for what purpose I really don't know. Probably because they go head first when they go back into the hole and they just didn't want to reorient the moles when it's easier to just reset the animation. When I was younger, I used to hate this area. Anyways, in this scene you can see the exact moment when the boulders disappear from the scenery. One viewer request was, is the Lakitu in the mirror room in Super Mario 64? Now obviously he meant outside of the reflection, and the answer to that question is no. No, the Lakitu is not there on the other side of the mirror because, well, I think the obvious reason for that is that if a character model was where the camera is supposed to be, it might actually obstruct the camera, causing graphical problems. One area that I always wanted to explore more of was Princess Peach's garden, because if you look up, it implies that you're looking at the back end of the castle, which means that there could be something even further off in the distance behind the garden. But unfortunately, when we take the camera out there isn't really anything to see. Everything that is obstructed out of your view, it's not modeled. And what's really odd is that this area actually has invisible walls that goes all the way up to the ceiling. In fact, if we were to take Mario as high as we can go, he can actually get wedged in an invisible corner, and it's a little interesting. Also, I did check the DS version to see if there was any other changes, but unfortunately, outside of that little concave area that you're supposed to bring Luigi, there's not much else. One thing I wasn't expecting to find was that inside Koopa the Quick's head is a texture for a mouth. Now, having a mouth for Koopa the Quick is completely unnecessary because he never moves his mouth, even when he's speaking in-game. So it implies to me that at some point the developers actually did want Koopa the Quick to have a mouth-moving animation, but they just nixed it. So the staircase mystery has been solved for a lot of people now. If there was one question that needed to be answered pre-date Boundary Break, it was the staircase. But I accept the fact that not everybody knows the answer to this mystery, so I included it in this episode. So when you run up the stairs, it seems like it's endless. And you gotta wonder to yourself, what does it look like when Mario's trying to run up the stairs at a different angle? Like, how are they pulling this off? Well, the answer is that after you get to a certain distance, Mario's warped to a lower end of the staircase, making it look like he's just running up the stairs at no end. And what's really funny is that I was going to try this with the DS version of Super Mario 64, and didn't even remember that you can't beat the game with Luigi. I thought there was something wrong with the game, so I just boundary broke to get to Bowser, defeated him with Luigi, and the end result is actually pretty funny. Yeah, it was so strange. So, like, Mario didn't show up, Wario didn't show up, and what happens here is absolutely criminal, dude. And you know it, I know it, and it's all over Luigi's face.
We have to do something special for you.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to vote for next week's episode, it's going to be a choice between all the Pokemon stadiums or Mortal Kombat 9. Well, and I've heard from a lot of people that the stream went really well, so I'm bringing it back, baby. Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's November 15th, I'm going to be doing Kirby's Air Ride and a look back at a previous episode of the viewer's choice. So if you show up and you tell me what you want, we'll do it, man. And if you like the idea of the show, I actually have a whole bunch of episodes that I've done before, and you can click on the playlist to go check it out. Alright guys, gonna take off. Thanks for watching. See ya.